is very close. Close up.
Yeah, so people can see.
I feel like it's. I know you're gonna be this.
Why don't you
closer,
wheel
but
it back a little
make
bit?
you pay for a professional makeup artist.
We can go back, but that's close. And
I like your shoes too. Those are cute.
it is live.
Cool.
But we still have like 2 minutes. And are you okay that this is my agenda? Are you ready?
You should not give me an agenda.
Not black. You can't hear
You
her?
can't hear me.
Get closer and talk louder.
I don't like talking loud.
Too bad. And then I have to get closer on the thing.
Better?
Yeah. My hair. So.
There's like a 2-minute delay.
Okay. There is one thing that I need to do.
Better? Yes. Okay.
Better now.
Okay. I got that one. That's fine. Yeah. What?
I'm not a cat.
Yeah. Are you not?
Mm-mm.
Ah, so sorry. I misrepresented you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, 1 minute. Yeah, I wrote it this morning. I was talking to Jojo.
I even texted you yesterday.
Oh, I thought it was a conversation.
Huh?
It's just some ideas.
Okay. Right. That works.
And then if we ever run out of things, since she doubts if she has it,
Yeah.
she can ask questions.
Okay.
I'm good at asking questions. I'll have to think of
Yeah. No, we know we are live and we're just letting people join. Okay, but it is officially 11 o'clock, so that's awesome. We can start now. So I'm Dr. Stevie, and
Krisi Vidal.
And I'm a licensed mental health counselor.
Also a licensed mental health counselor.
But apparently not a certified addictions professional.
Not again.
Apologize.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about all sorts of things about ADHD since it's a really big topic. And I have it, but it took me a long time through lots of working with different people to realize that I have it. And you don't.
I do not.
But you work with people who have it?
I work with people who have it. I'm surrounded by it in everyday life since the time I was born. So it's everywhere.
Yeah. And the talking thing, that's on my list of things, like dealing with what it's like to deal with the talking part.
The nonstop talking and the going on and on about a topic when I just need the cliff notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I wanted to go over, like, especially since it came up with my client that I tell you about, the one she was diagnosed. Okay, so ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It includes ADD. So ADD was attention deficit disorder, and now they've combined the hyperactivity and attention deficit into one disorder. And we have 3 different versions: attention deficit hyperactivity disorder inattentive type, which was ADD, attention deficit hyperactivity hyperactive, where that's where we see like the kids bouncing around and doing all this stuff. And then we have combined type, which is type C. So those are 3 types of ADHD. And again, when I had a client who I was like, I think you have it, sent her to a psychiatrist. And it wasn't a psychiatrist that I worked with. He is part of a large medical group. And she's like, I think I have ADD. Of course, I don't know where she came up with that. We talked about ADHD. And he's like, no, there is no ADD. There's only ADHD, and you don't have it because you have your higher education degree, so therefore you can't have ADHD. And then he misdiagnosed her with a personality disorder. And I was gonna like talk to you about that too, because for like as long as I've known you, I'd be like, I'm very borderline without my medication.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, you can't treat borderline with medication.
Well, and I think so many disorders overlap. Like ADHD can look like anxiety. ADHD could look borderline, could look bipolar. So there's some overlap there. And I also think it's hard to like meet someone once and diagnose a personality disorder. So yeah, some overlap there. And I think adults look different than kids with ADHD. And adults have learned to mask. And so, go to a psychiatrist, you might be misdiagnosed. Or a therapist might just misdiagnose.
Yeah. I know I probably misdiagnosed everybody. Not everybody, but
We're
like
humans.
we're human.
Yeah.
And whenever I have like a significant diagnosis like that, I'm always like, go talk to somebody else. Let's make sure that it's the right one, because those are pretty hard.
Yeah, just keep it in the background just to revisit later.
Okay. So one of the major things that I get like socially is everybody has a little bit of ADHD. How do you feel about that?
I think we all can be like distracted or inattentive at times, but for ADHD, those people can split attention among multiple things and do multiple things at once and, have that more trouble focusing in on one thing. I don't think we can all have a little. I think you have it or you don't. You don't have it a little bit.
Kind of like a little bit pregnant. You either are or you're not.
Yeah. But right, different variations. It could be more mild. You may be an adult that has masked for 35, 40 years, and it might not look like you have ADHD until you really start digging.
And that was like why there was this big rise in ADHD with COVID, because when we go to work, we have structure, we have organization, and we're held accountable. And so we can do it. And then when we had to be taken like out of that and at home, and then we didn't have the structure, we didn't have the time frames, we didn't have all of the things that made us be normal or functioning, it was like, whoa, something's wrong.
Right, and here's working from home with like all the distractions of home that you can possibly have, which is hard enough anyways if you don't have ADHD. But then you have ADHD and you're like, oh, well, there's this thing I need to do. Let me start this. And then I start this. And I could see how, those symptoms are more obvious if you work from home.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so not everybody has like a little bit of distractibility.
What do you think? Do you think you can have a little bit of ADHD?
Okay, the more I'm learning and talking to people and stuff, it's a brain structure difference. Your brain it affects these like 5 different components of it, everything except for sight. It doesn't affect your sight, but it affects all the other developmental parts of your brain where you are literally like physiologically impacted something in some way. So I don't know if that can be like everybody's brain is not working very well. I guess so. But
and you see those differences when you take a stimulant for someone who has ADHD versus not ADHD. You see the difference in reaction. So yeah, there is a difference in the brain.
And I love that you bring that up, because it's like the big argument about medication versus not. Like anyone who takes a stimulant medication is going to do better. Studies show that is not true. If you take it, sure, you might be awake.
Right. But someone with ADHD kind of more calms down and focuses and is able to be more attentive. Someone who doesn't have it may be more awake and wired.
I like that dopamine, because doesn't it like release dopamine and make you feel good?
Mm-hmm.
When I talk to people about their medication, I haven't talked to like a properly prescribed person with ADHD taking medication. They're like, dang, the high is really good. Nobody says that. They're just like, oh my gosh, this is what I got to do. It was amazing.
Yeah. Sometimes I also see like, oh, I don't really notice the difference, but I'm a little bit more focused.
Which sounds way better.
Yeah. I don't think they realize. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so you also mentioned like the split brain thing. And honestly, I didn't know that wasn't something that everybody did, where we were having a conversation months ago and you were like reading on your phone and I was talking to you because you were reading on your phone and you're like, I can't hear you. I'm doing something.
Yeah, I can't do two things at once, which that's your superpower with ADHD. That's the cool part. You can do a lot of things at once and multitask well. But I don't know, is 100% attention invested in each thing is probably the problem. But yeah, I can't look and listen. And I mean, I can't even like drive and listen. Like you have to be quiet if I'm lost.
Oh.
So I wonder if we get more overstimulated in someone with ADHD.
Okay, so because and those are all the ADHD children that we have in the other room, actually. Is your son? Yes or no? We don't know.
The jury's still out. He's pretty wild. And boys and girls are different. But,
yeah. I mean, changing because I do that. Like, I gotta do it where, like, I think my youngest actually has it, but because, yeah, that's a different one.
But they're kids.
I don't know. That one book is like, you gotta fix them, or ADHD girls are more likely to engage in all these unhealthy behaviors in high school if they aren't supported and compensated and everything.
But is that an America problem? Because we expect them to be in school sitting in the desk and have certain things, certain behaviors, as opposed to like other countries that let kids be more kids.
Yeah.
The mental health issues might look different for those other countries than here. Because you have to fit in the box here, and if you don't, you get all the masking behaviors.
I'm gonna have to write that down. Masking behaviors. We'll come back to that one. Okay, so overstimulated if you're not ADHD because you have to do all the focusing. That is a great question that I've never thought about.
Because my daughter has ADHD and she gets very overstimulated. But then for me, I think about times when there's just like a lot happening and I can't focus on all the different things. So it's overwhelming. Like I can only do one at a time.
Okay, so what happens to you when you get overwhelmed?
I need to know to stop so I can do one thing.
You don't want to die and physically crawl out of your skin or go take a nap?
No, a nap wouldn't. No, but that might be my personality. I don't think that would. Then I can't fix the things. I need to fix all the things. So I just.
Okay, so when you get overwhelmed with all of these things,
yeah, I need to address one at a time.
You can stop and address one at a time.
Yes. Not for you.
No,
you need to go be alone.
I do. If there's so many things that I can't do, it's that moment where I have to that's what go take a nap. Exactly.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, if the house and the kids and everything, I am going straight to my bed.
Okay, but then is that an adaptation from childhood where in school you have to sit this way and act this way and do these certain things, and then you can't, or it's hard to do it, so the adaptation is to just withdraw and just kind of give up.
No, because you can't take a nap in school.
Okay. What about home?
Because even if you get overwhelmed, then it's just your emotions are flooded and you have to go find a closet and close the door and bawl your eyes out.
But would that be then daydreaming for a kid in school?
Oh, you're right. If you are a kid, and I imagine you're a kid, overwhelmed, overstimulated, it is you go to a separate place. It is a lot of daydreaming. Yes.
You're not capable of being an adult walking away and going to take a nap. You could be a kid maybe that daydreams or
yes.
in another place.
I think that's what my first one does. That's how we knew he had ADHD in first grade, was because his teacher would be he's off all these different places, and I have to get him to focus, and he does.
Yeah.
And if you grab his face and make him focus on it, he can't do it. But then if he's playing on his phone or something, he's totally paying attention to everything.
Yeah, but phones were invented like to be addictive, and
If he's doing anything else, he can better pay attention than if you make him focus on it.
if it's interesting to him.
The interest and the laser focus, yes. I'm good, thank you. Yes, okay, so that's the other, I was like thinking of like ADHD superpowers. One is the whole you can do multiple things at once, even though your attention doesn't go to all of them. What is it like when you're interested in something?
Well, I'm just interested.
Yeah,
And
tell
I'm
me more.
curious, and I look into it and whatever. But I know you guys are like all in
Oh, not sleeping for like
1000%.
days.
until you're done with it and on to the next thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a more even keeled interest.
What? Okay, so what is something that like had your interest or has your interest? What is that whole journey like?
Okay, like running,
Okay.
right? So I run. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna follow all the rules and run every other day and take my rest days and not push myself to go too fast, too soon, too long of a distance, too soon. Right? But I know you would probably. In fact, you did push me to keep,
Yes!
keep running, keep on going and push through and power through and run every day. And I fractured my knee.
Okay, I can see the downside to that,
So
sure.
don't take running advice
From some of
someone
the
with
ADHD. That's a good point. Okay, so if you're excited, you don't have this like desperate need to learn everything about it?
No. I mean, I want to learn about it and I want to do research and I'm going to dive in. And
But it can like be postponed?
it could be postponed. I could need to know a bunch of stuff now. Well, I'm a fixer. I like to fix things right now, quickly, immediately. So I guess to an extent. Yeah, I would want to know a bunch of stuff, but I wouldn't be so consumed by it that I like miss an appointment because I was diving into research.
Okay, so if you're interested in something and you have an appointment, how does your brain do that?
Well, then you're getting into like the time thing, which is like a whole different
Okay, but
topic, right? So I would be like in my mind, like, okay, at this time I need to go get ready to leave. Because also it's really important for me to be on time.
Hey, it's important. I like being on time.
Yes, and you're very good at it when you're taking medication.
Yes, it does make a difference.
And I can tell when you're not taking.
Actually, speaking of that, I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law who's been doing a lot of research on this, and she's like looking at me and talking to me, and I'm like, She's like, I don't know if you're listening to me because you're looking at me. And I'm like, no, I took my medication. I'm listening. She's like, okay.
But you still listen.
I know.
Either way.
I do.
Yeah.
But that was like a trained thing. I always listened. Because I like stories. Okay, so now I'm changing the topic and come back to like a lot of these, but they say that people with ADHD, their memories aren't good, but not like you forget, but their memories are super vivid. Because my memories are super vivid details of like everything. That's why I love hearing people's stories. I remember stories with intense detail.
And I think people with ADHD tend to have a higher IQ. There's a lot of ADHD kids scoring with high IQs, right, that we wouldn't realize because they have trouble focusing in school. But I wonder if that could relate to IQ too, just that ability to retain information better. But yes, I do think there's a common theme of vivid, good memories.
So what is your memory like? You hear stories as a counselor. You hear stories.
What's my memory like with clients?
Yeah.
I have a great memory. I have a good memory. I remember details. I remember family members' names that someone talked about once, and yeah, I never go back and look at notes unless I'm doing EMDR and need kids remember numbers, but I have a pretty good memory, I think. But you may remember like the thing that happened 10 years ago on a Saturday at 2:15, and if it was irrelevant for me, it's gone.
But then the thing that happened yesterday that was irrelevant to me never made it into like my memory at all, so I had no idea it happened. If it's not interesting, the memory doesn't stay.
Well, that's the same for me, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I still do think people with ADHD have better memory.
Because that's the difference in like the research, though. It says that they don't have memories. And then you have like my second child does not remember anything at all. Nothing. He's the worst with memory.
God, there's so many other factors, like personality types, and like so many other things would play a role in memory.
So your daughter has good memory?
She has an excellent memory. We moved from Miami to where we live now. We lived in Miami until she was barely 2. She was probably 5 or 6, and she's like, "Hey, remember the time I threw the duck over the balcony?" And we were like, "That was our old house." I was like, "That's pretty impressive. You're like 1.5 when that happened." So, yeah, maybe a better memory.
My oldest does that. He remembers everything. Super vivid stories of like everything.
Us oldest children.
It might be the oldest children
Yeah.
thing. Because
We have certain traits.
the responsibility and everything. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So going back to not everybody has a little bit of brain differences. So that can't be it, but we can have different things. Also, going back to that, the people on my case, if they talk to me and ADHD is a possibility, a lot of times they're not like always open to it.
Yeah, there was such a stigma for so long, and I think kids were over medicated, right, for a long time. So we had like, kids walking around like zombies every time they had a behavior issue in like the 90s. And so there's a negative stigma with it, and they were like the bad kids, right? Because really it was like the hyperactive kids that tended to be noticed. The inattentive kids overlooked a lot.
Okay, so is that what people say when they're like refusing? Is that negative stigma attached to it where you're wild and crazy?
I think so, or they've adapted so much to their symptoms that they're like, no, I can do these things. Yeah, but
I can do them. That's a big argument whenever medication as an option for anything is discussed. It's like, no, I don't want to put anything in my body. I can do this and all that.
yeah, but it works.
I was going to say, but that's a lot of work when you can just take the medicine and then put all that effort into something else.
I am all for natural and non-medicated anytime you can, but ADHD is one of the few things that I think that you need medication.
Do tell
At
more.
least as a kid or as someone who's in a job that's very detail oriented. But a kid, I mean, at least again in America, where kids have to sit and face forward and take a test on a computer, and like it's going to be pretty hard for them to do that and score with what would reflect where they're really at without medication.
That's what I told you, but like my second kid, I had no idea he was ADHD, and then it was like, well, maybe he is, and he went from on the standardized tests from a 2, which is like not at all passing, to like a 5, which is the highest you could do, and the only thing we changed was we put him on medication.
Exactly what happened with my daughter. A
Yeah.
2 and jumped up to like 1 point away from a 5 and moved into the gifted program after being tested and taking medication.
Yes. Okay, so then the argument would be, if you give any kid stimulant, are they going to all of a sudden become gifted? Does stimulant medication make your child gifted?
No, they're going to all of a sudden become hyper if they don't have ADHD.
True. Okay.
When my child takes her medication, she's more, her emotions are more under control. She's a little bit more stable, a little bit more focused. She's not bouncing off the walls at all when she takes a stimulant.
And that was a lot of complaints that I hear from men that took it as like adolescents and children. They're like, yeah, I was diagnosed as ADHD as a child. I took medication and now I'm not because we thought that we could outgrow it. But they're like, I didn't like the way I was on medication.
Again, they were so over medicated then. Like, you know, you have kids taking 5 or 10 milligrams of Adderall, and as kids, I feel like they were taking like 40 as the norm.
Because there's this thing where it's like, the more you take, the
Yeah, and it really, you know, for all symptoms of some of those things, that wasn't good.
But I did ask my oldest because he doesn't like his medication. He's like, I don't like it. And I was like, why not? Because my youngest is like, or my middle child is like, I want to take this all the time. Can I just take it every day all the time? And I'm like, honestly, I don't want him to, because then if we run out, that I have to make the appointments for the doctor. And since I have ADHD, like that is a really huge, big thing for me and I can't do it. So I'm like, no, we're only taking it when you go to school. But
why don't you make the appointment before you leave the office? Like the last appointment, you're there, you leave, and you schedule the 30-day and you put it in your phone.
That plus that you have to call and have the prescription every 30 days. Like that's the other downside. It's not easy to refill. And then they don't always have Concerta because they run out of it. It's just a really big pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But my oldest says, I don't like taking the medication because I feel like I am held back. Like I change as a person, because without the medication, he's outgoing, gregarious, talks to everybody, talks incessantly, and he likes that part about him. And then when he takes the medication, he does not. That, and he doesn't eat. He doesn't like not eating.
Yeah, just common. Yeah, I mean, maybe he needs to realize that it doesn't change his personality. He's still him. Maybe he's just picking up more on social cues and having better impulse control, but he's still outgoing and friendly and talkative, just like when he's not taking it.
Okay. Yeah, when we're done, you can go talk to him about that, because that sounds awesome. Okay, cool. So then that's the lost cells, yes. Okay, so you mentioned where your daughter is more emotionally stable on her medication, which I do see that. Well, I experience it when I'm taking medication. It's my emotions are way better. And to the point where then, whole medication journey. But to be a normal person.
Okay, I don't know that I'm like representative of the norm.
Okay, just because your family says you're not doesn't mean you aren't.
Because I don't show a lot of emotion.
It doesn't mean you don't have them. Showing and having them different things.
I do have them. So I manage my emotions probably more than the average person. Whereas my daughter is the complete other end of the spectrum, who, especially when she's not taking her medication, is very dysregulated emotionally. So what is it like to manage them?
Well, okay. Because I tell people that it's kind of like driving in a car and then you're driving a stick shift and then it gets caught out of gear, where it's just like you go from here to zoom really fast.
Yes.
There's no middle.
Yeah, so I think I'm able to like stop and think and kind of like play it through before I react. Whereas you guys just react.
So you can stop your emotions.
I can respond. But again, that's also kind of different personalities you're getting into too. There could be other reasons for that. But yeah, right? ADHD, that more like instability, quick reaction. Just like, especially normal in kids that have ADHD. I can stop and.
So it's not, because when I get emotions and I see it in my kids and I see it in my clients, which is why the whole like BPD thing and females with ADHD, It's that emotional flooding when you're triggered or when you're overwhelmed. And it's this full body over-stimulating experience of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you get that?
When there's a lot of things happening around me, that happens, but I still manage how I react. I might feel that way, but I don't. Well, no, sometimes I yell. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, everybody stop.
But all you do is yell.
Yeah.
I mean, that
what
right
else-
there is already different.
what else
Wow,
would-
you yell.
What else would you do?
Well, when you're like that emotionally flooded, it's like I want to rip off my skin, and sometimes it's like, I gotta rip off, like, or like I have to like physically do something where it's just like you're caught in your body with all of this different stuff, and you have to escape in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not agree?
I make noises. Like if I'm
Noises.
like tapping.
Yes.
Oh, that's a whole other, the movement thing. That's a whole other.
Movement.
Yeah, the foot moving and tap. I just always needed to be moving.
It's a stimulating thing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't need to rip my skin off. Sometimes when my kids are like loud, I'm like, I want to cut my own ears off, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I just want it to stop.
I want it to stop. That just sounds so cool. Right? Like,
So you feel that you have no control over it. You're like, let me just escape it.
oh, yeah, in that moment, there's no
Whereas
control.
I'm like, everyone, like, stop. This needs to happen. This needs to happen.
Yeah, no, in that moment, it's like you physically have to leave or go do something in order to do those stuff. But there's no way in that moment to do stuff. I mean, obviously, that's when
Is
you
your
learn
brain,
skills.
like, that logical part of your brain kind of offline at that point?
Yeah, there's none.
Yeah.
Which I teach my kids when we're like overwhelmed with emotions, we do math problems. So when they're upset, I start being like, what's 1 + 1? What's 2 + 2? What's 4 + 4? And we go through that, and that is able to like
That's a good
calm
idea.
down.
Different part of the brain. Smart.
Yes, but doing something like that's the only thing that gets it away.
You found a way that works.
Yes, and it does work. Yeah. Okay, so your emotions just kind of go and they don't become too overwhelming where you can't do anything.
I mean, sometimes I'm overwhelmed. I'm not like a perfect specimen that doesn't get overwhelmed sometimes. But yeah, I'm like, I need to fix all these things. But I'm also an oldest child, so
You fix, you're responsible, everything will be fixed.
So there's that, yeah.
Okay. And going back to the emotional intensity, this was my argument, especially with my client who was diagnosed with BPD. And I have seen this with a few females specifically, where previously in adolescence, they would have problems with like cutting or eating disorder type stuff, and just that emotional overwhelm and inability to manage their emotions when they become upset. But these very same kids, now adults, when we have sessions, they're able to like have conversations about their emotional outbursts. And my big like rule of thumb is they never argue, and it's never directed at me. And I was having this conversation earlier where it's the difference that I see between like the emotional dysregulation of ADHD versus borderline personality disorder is with a personality disorder, you universally treat everybody with the same stuff. It's not as easily monitored, whereas ADHD, it's specific instances, but also not everyone gets that.
Yeah, and I think, of course, behind borderline, you have that fear of abandonment. So I think the emotion dysregulation is different. The intentions are different behind it. Borderline, it's when that abandonment fear comes out that you see those big behaviors. Whereas ADHD, I mean, kind of anything could trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is why you wouldn't see it. Like you would see it with your therapist, whereas in counseling.
I think therapists have such a different role than psychiatrists. Like, psychiatrists might meet with someone for an hour the first time, or 30 minutes the first time, and then do their quick 15-minute
Which they should be quick, because you do want to go to a psychiatrist and leave with medication because you obviously are experiencing something. So I get that.
Right. But as therapists, we're sitting and diving into stuff for an hour a week, typically, at least in the beginning. And so I think we get to know our clients and their behaviors, and we can see where the intention comes from. Is there fear of abandonment with their childhood trauma that, took them more the borderline path? Or is it more just impulse control disorder?
Okay. I bring up the other thing is like the causes of ADHD. Where is it environmental? Or is it a genetic thing?
I don't know. I guess like anything, we see a strong link in family members, right? But could it be the environment they grew up in? Could it be having a parent with ADHD and kind of learning the way they do things and adapting and splitting attention? I don't know.
Because like with anxiety is, a lot of that's behavioral. If you grow up in a house where everyone's anxious, you're going to be anxious most often. So if you grow up where you have to split your attention, I guess that would be it.
Yeah, I guess genetic. Yeah, we know there's differences in the brain and how the brain responds to the different neurotransmitters, and so there must be probably a little bit of both, just like everything.
Yeah, I think someone found like the gene for it and all this other stuff, but then the same person was like, yes, but then there's also like an environmental. But
is there a gene? There's no blood test, so it's not like we can be like, oh, this gene causes ADHD.
There.
So
you can do brain scans.
We know there's differences in the brain, but is that development related? Did they develop and their brains adapted differently and grew differently over time? And that's how an ADHD brain adapts. And
that's all the pressure on your parenting, and it's like, you have kids and you don't do the right thing, you're gonna mess up your kids. Okay.
I think most parents are doing their best, and it is what it is. No kids coming out perfect, and no parents coming out perfect.
Yep, it's learning and adapting as we go.
Yeah. And if you're thinking that, you're a good parent. If you're even thinking like parenting and am I doing it right and what are the things, you're on a good path. If you care enough.
And if you care and you are working to do your best, you're doing your best.
Yeah.
And if if we don't struggle enough as kids, we grow up and have no skills and
no coping skills. We see those kids, adults that can't handle things not going their way, that have a hard time keeping jobs, that have a hard time having supervisors. So yes, they need to face challenges, even though it's really hard to watch when you just want to jump in and fix it.
Yeah.
You're better at that than I am.
Because I can't, it's so hard for me to go in and do stuff that I let my kids struggle.
So they have better coping skills. I want to be the fixer, and I have to work really hard not to be.
Yes. So there's another advantage to being an ADHD parent. You're going to let your kids
There are lots of advantages. Your house is also like the fun house that you can make messy and nobody cares and kids have fun. My house is like the last time you came over, I was vacuuming and mopping and you were there. And I appreciate that you didn't judge me for that because you know me well enough to know that I just need to do that so I can sit and relax.
But that's the way that's supposed to be, where you're supposed to have all the clean and organizing in the places for all that stuff, and there's that pressure for us to do all that. But
you get to be more fun than I am. You have the pumpkin carving parties with the mess, and I would die if
you had such a great cookie or hot cocoa, and it was
I even allowed sprinkles in my house. That was really hard, which is why that's where the vacuuming and mopping comes in while you're still there. Everyone else left. It was just you.
But it was set up so nice and pretty and everything.
Yes.
The only reason like my stuff lately is really nice is because JoJo's freaking amazing. That's it. She does it all.
You people have to have the JoJos in your life because they just, yeah.
You people.
You people, yeah. Which, yeah, that could lead into like a marriage discussion, but
Go.
what about people that are married? If both have ADHD or one has ADHD, what does that look like?
Yeah, so what is it like for you? My husband does not have ADHD.
Yeah, so we're on opposite sides. Yeah, that can be really frustrating for us sometimes and for Debbie, and I know your husband, so I think for him sometimes also can be frustrating because we're so, and I think he has probably a similar personality to me, so personality could come into play here, but we're so structured and organized that I think we end up taking charge and doing a lot of things, and that can be
But
really
I
overwhelming.
expected him to do all the taking charge and stuff since he is more that way.
Yes,
But
it doesn't make it fun for us.
but if you like it and you're
We
good at
don't
it, why
like- no.
don't do it?
I don't know that we like it. We just do it because we can't trust that you will do it.
But you can do it.
Yes, but it puts a lot on us to do.
Tell me more.
So, like, if there's we have to remember there's this important meeting or this thing that we, have to do. Like, it's on me to remember because probably you're not going to remember. And it's on me to remind you multiple times.
Okay, I can see he does that, yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Okay, that's when you can do the adaptive things. Like we have shared schedules, right? Where I put what I'm doing, he puts what he's doing, and I will look at the schedule beforehand.
And I think that's the work outside of medication, is because schedules and routines and calendars are hard for people with ADHD. And to get into the habit of checking a calendar and doing that, I think that you probably did some work to get there.
Yes, because I've had the physical calendars and the check boxes and the lists and all that stuff. And you get like these great organization systems and they are on the wall and then they become something completely different because no one uses them.
Yeah.
Because once I set it up, I can't go back.
Well, and it's that hyper focus too. Like, this is great, it's going to work. I'm diving all in. I'm doing the whole calendar thing. And then it's up and it's like, okay, this is boring now.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Okay.
then it would be on your husband to be like, oh, did you check the calendar?
Yeah, and he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. But then that also happens and said we don't have any of them. Or maybe we had a conversation I completely forgot. But that could just be what it's like to be married.
Well, then the whole conversation thing is like a whole different topic. Because do you tend to like go on about the story?
Okay, so that was I am very sensitive to my hyper focus on conversations of interest. Because I still remember being at my friend Keisha's house with my sister-in-law. We were there for something and I had just learned about the Myers-Briggs. So imagine a 24-year-old me just learning about the Myers-Briggs, not being medicated for anything. That was all I talked about with anybody ever. And
okay, that's still all you talk.
I've calmed it down. So I met this new girl and she was like kind of taken aback. And, Keisha and Monica were just like, yeah, Stevie really likes you because that's how she acts when she likes you. And I was like, oh, so I guess this isn't normal. I need to temper this then. I mean, obviously, that is still the only thing I know how to talk to people about. I'm going to categorize you so I know how to best have a social conversation. But yes, I'm very sensitive to how much I talk. So I will start a story and then be like, what do you think?
Are you paying attention to cues when the people are like zoning out? Or
Yes, I'm very sensitive
okay,
to social cues if I'm talking too much.
I wonder if that's an adaptation.
It is definitely an adaptation.
Yeah.
which is when I feel really bad that my oldest talks all the time, which my husband's very sensitive to, and be like, you're talking too much. But I'm like, that caused me to be really insecure about talking.
Yeah. I usually am just like, okay, you're losing me. I gotta, like, can you just get to the point? Because I do, when the story's going on and on and on, I'm like, okay, I just need let's get to the point.
That is what I do.
I'd go on and on or get to the point.
No, with my son, I will say, hey, can you get to the point? But listening to my husband tell me stories, though, is hard for me. Because he will go into details that I don't care about, and I don't know why he's telling me this. So I don't know what to pay attention to and what not to, and it's really hard. And then I'll be like, can you just tell me the end so that I can listen to everything that's going on? And he's just like, no, I'm going to tell you the story the way I want to tell you, which I get.
But
But
your
then,
personality type, right? You
yeah,
need to know the end.
I do.
Yeah. So maybe personality plays a role too. ADHD isn't in a box exactly the same. So many differences, different personalities play a role.
Yes, because that was like the talking thing where Elliot, again, doesn't talk, and so he takes his medication.
Yes, you have two very opposite children, as do most people. But yes, one hides in his room from everybody, and it's not like social interaction, as my youngest follows him around. He's like, is this what it like to have kids? Yeah, sorry. And your oldest is very, very friendly and comfortable around people, and for a teenager, very, very comfortable around adults, and which is a great trait.
And I also do hear that is like maybe ADHD, although we haven't talked about spectrum, but spectrum-y, where talking to peers is more challenging, but talking to older or younger people is easier.
For someone with ADHD?
Yes.
Interesting.
With the girls thing that I was like listening to, that's very unaudible right now, they were talking that like females with ADHD struggle with relationships with other females. So they will have like more male friends, or again, socialize with younger or older people. But it's that peers that's really challenging.
For females with ADHD.
Yes.
Which, right, if you have that like emotional piece and that poor impulse control and the bigger emotions, other girls don't. Girls are tough. That's a tough population. I'd imagine the girls have a hard time handling all those emotions. So you just, right, guys, there's space for emotions when you're friends with a guy.
Yeah, because it's not really. There's like whatever.
Yeah. Easy. Yeah. It's not complicated between the lines stuff like girls.
There's a lot of social cues and subtext in female conversations.
Mm-hmm.
There's
males tend to just
so it does tend to be easier.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
You find yourself friends with more males than females?
When I was younger. Now, no, obviously. But when I was younger, it was way easier because I didn't understand, again, that if I'm saying something to you, I'm saying it with intention. There's no anything else. And then I noticed that like girls didn't do that, or if they said something, they might mean something else. And I'm not good at that.
You're getting into some of the
Personality
neurodivergence
yes
stuff too, because like if my daughter says something, she's saying it and that's it. If you say something to her, it's black and white. Whatever you said, there's no, if you said we're doing this later, but something came up, there's no comprehension of like, sometimes plans change.
Yes, because you said that. And I trusted that you said that.
Yeah. So then I think that's more into like the neurodivergence.
The supervisor that I went to because I'm almost done with the EMDR supervisors. Found what they really like.
I think you're July 24th.
Yeah, I have to do one more. And she said that like her hypothesis is like ADHD is on the spectrum, because there is like a lot of like overlap and everything.
Yeah.
And she has ADHD, and I think she might identify with some spectrum stuff.
You have a thing with like textures.
Textures.
Like my daughter has something with food textures, clothing textures, feelings of things, sounds of things. And so they're definitely I could see that. I'm on board with exploring that as
Yes. I think my mom always thought that like Luke was on the spectrum because he didn't do the eye contact thing as an infant and would get overstimulated. And I was like, no.
Yeah, no, I don't see that.
No. But definitely that's why it's easier for me to have conversations with Ellie, because I can explain. And I'm like, hey, this is how it is. We actually talked about thinking versus feeling, because he understands the introvert extrovert thing, but thinking versus feeling, and how he can better have conversations or arguments with his brother, explaining how his brother values feelings and arguments versus how he values like logic.
Oh, that's such a great trait to teach a male. His future wife's gonna thank you.
Yes, if he cares about it, yes. Okay. So speaking of like, how are you with lists?
Oh, I forever have a list, multiple lists.
And you remember where they are?
Yeah, they're usually in my phone and my notepad, but I also have one on my desk where I work next to the computer, but they're like different lists. Like one's like a personal list and one's like a work to-do list.
And you look at them.
And I look at them every day.
How do you feel when you look at them?
I feel like I have things to do. And then I get to accomplish them and have the joy of crossing them off.
You look at the list.
Yeah.
You feel good?
I just feel organized. Like, okay, it's all here. I know what I need to do. I can jump in, cross it off.
Because crossing it off is really good for dopamine. Like, yes, you feel accomplished and it will motivate you to keep going. But it depends on my list. Or if I have a list, it might be like, ugh.
Because then it's like a to-do list. And
I don't do anything.
You want to go
I'll
take
go
a
back to
nap.
bed. Okay. And so when you write your lists, you also feel, wow, your eyes like lit up. It's like, writing lists is awesome.
Yeah. Here's planned out, usually in order, and it's great. Keeps me on track. Right? Because I'm also doing all the like doctor's appointments for kids and forms and all the things that you never like doing.
Yeah, no.
So sometimes there's a lot more on my plate maybe than my husband as far as remembering to do things. So yeah, I need them. I keep me organized.
Okay, so like remembering to do, I was trying to understand what it's like to be neurotypical with my sister-in-law, and she was telling me that like she goes grocery shopping and she can remember to get everything, and she remembers what she bought until she uses it. Is that what it's like for you?
She remembers, like she goes and doesn't have a list.
She'll write a list, or she'll just remember to buy everything.
I mean, I usually have a list, and I typically will look at it to make sure I didn't forget anything. If it's like 3 things, I'll be like, I know there's 3.
Do you think about the list all day until you go?
No, I just go and open the list.
That's cool.
And we have like a calendar at home, right? My husband wanted this calendar. It's great for ADHD, and you can put lists on it, and it has all the things, and there's an app on your phone. So, we have like a Costco list and a Publix list and a Whole Foods list, and so I can kind of just pull the app up on my phone and whatever. Yeah. And then if I come home, it's like, oh, did you get this? Was it on the list? Then no, I did not.
And you remember what you buy in your fridge?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I go and I'm like, well, here's how many dinners I need to make. So I need to like get about this many vegetables and fruits. And
already that sounds
impulse.
Well, even if I make
you
a
end
list,
up throwing a bunch of stuff away.
I away because I never use it. Yes. I forget what I bought, what it's used for.
You're ADHD. ADHD is costing you money.
It is very, actually studies show that it's going to cost you more money. You have a shorter lifespan, like all these not great stuff.
One of my clients also brought up like the return thing. Like people with ADHD have a hard time like
Yes.
actually returning things. So they
No.
end up like passing the
Yep.
return date and
Oh.
keeping it. And so, yeah, that makes sense that you guys spend more money.
Because then I'll buy something, then forgot I bought it or forgot it. Yeah, or didn't use it. Yes. Plus that impulse buying thing, like Target is the worst.
Target's the worst for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. If you go in Target, you're leaving there with a bunch of crap you don't need.
And it looks so pretty.
Yeah, especially like at the little front.
No, the front is
section.
amazing.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, I do need a themed plants or yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you actually like remember stuff and use it.
Yeah.
Because I might have a really great meal plan on Sunday if I actually had the brain power to sit down and actually do it. Because just already meal planning and all the lists is making my brain hurt. But I will forget what I planned. And even if I write it down, it's still not guaranteed because something will come up or I might have forgotten about something else or there's too many variables and then I'll go take a nap.
Well, you need to escape. Well, I'm like mentally like starting the day like, okay, I know today I have, I work till this time and then I'm picking up kids and then they're going to be home around this time so I can make dinner this day and I kind of like have a mental plan for the schedule for the day and I kind of do that throughout the week. And then if there's a day that, there's an activity or something, I plan a different meal or we're picking food up or my husband's making one of the two meals, he's allowed to make. So there's kind of like a schedule for the whole day. It's not just the meal, it's what does the day look like realistically? If I'm at this activity and this activity and my husband's coming home and we're switching off kids, that's a day that it's going to be like a frozen pizza or.
But you would have like thought about it and it's just a normal thought process where it just happens and you go, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I'm going to cook dinner at night, that's going to be in my head like all day. And I might not be able to do anything all day because I have something that I'm doing that night.
The pressure of.
Yeah, the pressure. Am I going to remember, did I have everything? Even though I know I had everything, do I have too much? Do I have too little? Is it going to work out? Is it going to fit in with all this other stuff? Like all of that.
Is it a fear of forgetting?
I'm going to forget something and then it's going to be really bad. And then I've learned over years, if I forget something, then it's a catastrophe. And, that's
but you're a
the
good cook, so I feel like you could adapt.
Oh, no, I totally do. Like logically. But then there's a background of how this has not worked. And that is the downside of like ADHD. I failed.
And is that an adaptation from a lifetime of
Correct.
like, oh, we forgot something else again or.
Yep, you didn't do this. Of course, you are scatterbrained, you are unorganized, you are messy, or all these things that you've been told. Well, not you, I've been told.
No. Yeah. And then, so then there's the fear of, what, am I viewed as a failure again?
Yes.
If I forget something later.
Yeah. And I see that.
I wonder what that's like for boys with ADHD who maybe don't have that same pressure as adults to do all those things.
Well, this is where you get into like the big argument about males and females and if there's a difference. But from what I understand, males do the hunter-gatherer thing, right? Like that's what they do. They have to provide and protect for their partners. So sometimes the ADHD gets in the way of providing and protecting. And there would be that like insecurity and I have to perform and I have to be and it's perfection at work. Where it's like, I have to be the best. I have to dedicate myself. I have to be there all the time. I have to work hard because everyone is counting on me. And I know if I don't keep all this up, it's all going to fall. Yeah, no.
I don't know. I feel like I need to think about that.
because with my male people, my male clients who have ADHD, they work really hard. And again, I mean, but most of us think that we're not good enough, but it's that like underlying sense that I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I'm not capable, because growing up where everything that you do naturally is bouncing around and you can't calm down, there's something wrong with you. So I see this like internal sadness where I'm not good because me being me is wrong. And that comes out in a lot of different ways.
Do you think that defensiveness like leads to pushback sometimes and blame other people?
Absolutely. It can't be my fault.
So you feel like it's your fault.
Absolutely.
But you present like it's not your fault.
Because if I admit that it's my fault, then everything is my fault, and that is too much for me to handle, and I can't do that. So it can't be my fault.
And I think we get that defensiveness a lot in people with ADHD. And that part, I think, can be really exhausting for the people around that are like, oh my gosh, can you just listen to me instead of being defensive?
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that share that experience. Because it is hard. It's hard for humans in general to be told that you're wrong.
Yeah.
But then if you don't have that like emotional manageability on top of that, hearing that you're wrong is going to elicit like major defense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a work. We need to figure out work in that area. Techniques for managing that, because yeah.
Since I obviously have to practice what I teach in counseling, a lot of it is being open to feedback and getting feedback, which means I'm going to hear them wrong, knowing that the emotions are going to come up, but not letting them influence me.
You do a good job taking accountability, though.
I will.
Admit you're wrong sometimes when you're not wrong.
Yes, that's just easier just to say I'm wrong. But when it's like in an argument with my husband where I'm wrong, it is like I've learned to like add in mindfulness, which is one of the practices that's very helpful for ADHD, and being aware of my bodily response to this emotion. So like, oh, I get here, my heart's going there, and just adding that mindfulness, like, ooh, I'm really triggered.
Yeah.
That
and
helps.
Coming back to males versus females, how many males? Because we used to, maybe now we're doing a better job with little boys, but we used to not teach little boys a lot of emotion and connection with their body. And so how many men now that are adults are able to recognize those things the way that women are?
Yes. And a lot of education. When I work with like men and couples, that's usually where I see them. A lot of it is training them about emotions.
Yeah.
What is it like to have an emotion? What are you feeling in this moment?
Yeah, learning the names. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, women do it too, but it's definitely like a lot of time spent with the men teaching.
Yeah, and I wonder if we get more defensiveness in males with ADHD because of their lack of just awareness of emotions and knowledge of emotions and connecting with their body. And they also tend to come to therapy less.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Getting them to therapy is hard. Although the ones I've had recently are staying and they're doing a very good job.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, I have some great male clients. Definitely more overwhelmingly female though.
Oh, definitely. And the males that do come, it's because their wives have been in therapy and have had like a great experience. They're like, you need to go.
Or the wives made them go.
Yeah, that's how you come in. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's all on my list. Do you have questions?
Oh, I actually wrote
Okay, awesome.
coordination. Do you think ADHD affects your ability to be coordinated or clumsy or?
That is such a good question.
That is.
That's not talked about a lot.
It's not, but it actually came up in my kitchen the other day. So yes.
Yeah. And is there the research on
Yes.
spatial awareness
Yep.
and ADHD? Because I feel like
There's
a little piece missing.
I mean, there is a spatial awareness, but the way that I see it is, and the way that I explain it, because my husband's like, oh, I just learned about like ADHD people are more clumsy because, of course, like Elliot is always doing stuff, and I have bruises all over me all the time. And I look at it as like we aren't in the moment. There's not a lot of awareness at this time. We're in the future. So if you aren't now, then you're not aware of anything here. You're already in the future. So you forget where your body is versus where the future is. So you run into everything and stuff. But there's that motor control where it does the balance, the way back and forth and your body. Yes.
Yeah, I just remember growing up, like I rode horses and I was fine balancing on a horse. But then, like I told you the other
You
week
can't
at
walk.
work, I put my coffee down and
yes.
it exploded. And then literally they had to get the janitor in my office to clean everything. 2 days later, I was moving and I spilled my entire other cup of coffee and it went everywhere. So that's what made me think of it. I was like, I wonder if other people have coordination issues.
Yeah, I think that's common. My daughter is always running into a wall or a stool, and then she'll get mad at the wall. I'm like, the wall today, it's been in the same spot since we've lived here.
No, it makes me mad because every time I have like an open beverage, I know it's going to spill in this office, and I'm like, I got all my pretty stuff, and it does happen all the time. It's like I kind of take preparation to make it not, but it doesn't matter.
Why don't you just get a cup that's not open?
Doesn't that make a lot of sense?
Yeah.
Okay, but then I have to remember where it is, and I always have to wash it, and then I have to remember where it is and wash it. So that's already
Washing
like
is a thing, right? Like dishes are. My husband hates dishes.
it's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can put dishes in the dishwasher. I have ever since my kids were like 3 and 4, they've been emptying the dishwasher because I can't do it. It's just putting things away. Like I will wash clothes, fold them. Yep, I won't put them away.
I haven't washed a dish in like 5 years.
Yeah,
Who washes the dishes?
My husband, all of them. But he's very, like, he has a lot of OCD tendencies.
and that is
It works
helpful.
out nice.
Yes, it does.
It does sometimes. It does when, because he's very clean and likes to clean versus I like cleanness, but like I'm like a tornado. Like I'm getting ready and I put my mascara here and then I'm like, wait a second, I gotta walk my dog. So I walk my dog and then I put the leash on the couch because I'm
And then
so
you
he
can't
just
remember where you put all the things.
yeah,
when
and
you
then
go
he
back
just
later.
comes and just picks up after me and then he gets mad and it's like, why can't you just remember to put this? And I'm like, I can't.
I still remember my best friend when I was in college. I was visiting her. She opened up a letter and she took the letter and then took the envelope and put it in the trash can. And I was 20 and remember this because it was that significant. Because if I open a letter,
Oh, yeah.
because I'm no longer with the letter, so the envelope and everything doesn't exist anymore, so it ends up anywhere.
And then there's a paper too because I get so excited that I can't just like open it. I'm like ripping everything apart. So.
Yes, because you have to finish whatever it is you're doing. It has to be now. It can't be later.
So then you okay. Yeah, so that explains why surfaces in my house always have stuff on them.
Because you just
I
drop
got
it
rid
and move
of
on.
our coffee table
'Cause it
just so
covered.
there was one less surface to put stuff on.
Okay, so actually things on surfaces bother me. Like there are certain surfaces that I will hold things on them, but then the rest of them, I honestly need them to be
Clean.
clean. Do you have more questions?
Yeah. So I got one of so I'm like obsessed with dreams and sleep and all of that. I've always been. I got one of those Apple Watches and I was like, I want to know how much, REM sleep I have, how much whatever. I get like twice as much REM sleep as like a regular person. And I wonder if like people with ADHD need more sleep because, REM sleep isn't as restful. If people with ADHD need more sleep than like a regular person.
I was just reading about that specifically and the sleep with sleep and ADHD. And there is like a lot of disordered sleeping for people with ADHD, and that tiredness does contribute to the symptoms, and even to the point where it's just like which one started first, the symptoms or the sleep. And yes, the dream sleep, but then the deep sleep where we do a lot of like our growth and stuff isn't we don't really reach that as much. So yes, the sleep thing is what we're seeing is an issue.
Because my husband will sleep like 6-7 hours and be fine. Like I need at least 8 to 9 every night, and then I'm fine.
Interesting. And you're like a lot of sleep.
And I was
You used
always
to
like
be a 12-hour sleeper before
yes,
kids.
before kids. And I was like, I'm never going to function with kids because you never sleep with kids. And I have always required so much sleep because it's not restful sleep.
So my husband and daughter are the complete opposite. If they could like function without ever sleeping, they would be so happy. My daughter hates sleep. She wakes up
You can be too
early.
bored to sleep. I was as a child. Like Luke never liked to sleep. And I was that way as a child, where you are too bored to go to sleep.
See, my husband doesn't need a lot of sleep either, though.
That's
Or he
weird.
I
thinks
take
he
medication to
He'll
sleep.
sleep
though.
like 4 hours and be like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, no, I need
I
sleep.
mean, good for him, but
yeah. I don't think it's good for you.
I don't think so. But like Martha Stewart gets like 4 hours of sleep and she's so productive. So it'd be
Oh.
great.
It would be nice to have the extra time, especially when you have kids.
Yes. Although extra time for me would just be more not doing things, because the more time there is, the less I get
More
accomplished.
naps you're taking.
Yes. But if I have like a short period of time, I'm going to be super accomplished because that time pressure.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that thing too, that waiting till the last minute, but then you're really productive. You get done.
Yep.
Man, is it stressful for those of us that are not like that.
The whole idea sounds great. Do a little bit every day. That sounds great.
Yeah.
But with ADHD, unless you're medicated, because I can on medication, but otherwise,
you're waiting till the last day.
yes.
And then
Or I cannot do it. I will sit at the computer and nothing comes out. Unless it's due the next moment. It's like,
one of my clients once told me that she was reading something that maybe people wait till the last minute to do things because they're like kind of planning in their head and want it to be done really well.
that is a very optimistic viewpoint.
No, not for you.
No.
You're just waiting because you don't want to do it.
Well, it's not that I don't want to. It's not the want. It's the can't. It's like a numbing brain pain, discomfort, not do it. Yeah. See,
It's like when I would write papers for grad school, I would try to do a little bit each day, and it just wouldn't connect. Like I would do like an outline or whatever one day, and I was like, I can't write this, and then all of a sudden, 12 hours before it's due, everything just suddenly makes sense, and I can just sit there and just hyper focus on it and just get it done in like 12 hours.
Yep.
Right, we were talking about memory. Is the memory different? Instead of like we need to reinforce and like practice a day in and day out for several days to remember something. Is that memory different for someone with ADHD? Do you wait till the last minute and you can retain by doing it 12 hours before or whatever?
I don't know if that's studying. I think it's more asking anything. Like it's more production. I can't produce. That has nothing to do with like intake.
Yeah, I wrote down short-term versus long-term memory. I feel like I remember everything, but like driving here, like I don't remember what road I took. I have to think about, okay, what did I have for breakfast? So is it like your long-term memory is just extra good and the short-term memory isn't quite there?
I think that was like the long-term memory and accessing the long-term memory, but there's something in between that it just does not work the same way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm asking. Like, because it's easy for me to retrieve things from like my childhood or whatever, but things that happened recently, it's so hard for me to like remember it.
Yes, that was what I'm talking about. Yes. Unless, of course, it's your clients. I bet you remember all of that.
I remember I remember every kid in my school's name.
Yes. But then
What
all
is
those
it
little
about?
things.
But most therapists are like that. They can
Maybe
maybe
most
not all,
people.
but
Contain stories. Our brains are great with stories. But if it's mundane or it does not have a direct application to anything, it's not going to stay.
Like, did I lock my door? Did I remember to turn off the oven today? and then I'll start overthinking.
And then that's where like the OCD also thing comes in. It's just like, did I remember? Because you legitimately can't remember if you remembered.
I forget a gift whenever I go to a birthday party.
I forget to buy gifts all the time. I'm like, yes, I RSVP'd, I'm going. And that, I think I did a good job. But there's like, oh, crap, the gift. That's why I like it when they send the invitation with like, buy us this, then I can do it all at once. And then forget that I did anything. And then I'll be like, oh my gosh, look how smart I was. I bought the gift. Yay.
Yeah, that's what I try to do. Makes life easier.
Yes, but do you forget that you did it?
No,
See, as soon as I do it, if it's at the beginning,
because it's on my list and I cross it off.
yeah, I forgot. Like a lot of times I'll be like writing paper. I'll get so inspired the first day. So I know my brain wouldn't work until it's due. So I would write everything that I could that day and then pick it up the night before. And I'm like, oh my God, look how smart I was. Look at what I did. Yay, I forgot all about this. And then go from there. Okay. So any more questions? Really good? Okay, good. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this off then. Okay. Maybe I don't know how to do it.